And what are the Republicans thinking about? They're not thinking about their next-door neighbor. They're just thinking about how much this is going to cost. President Obama is going to be visiting Joplin, Missouri on Sunday. But you know what they're talking about? Like this right-wing slut, what's her name, Laura Ingraham? Yeah, she's a talk slut. You see, she was, back in the day, praising President Reagan when he was drinking a beer overseas, but now that Obama's doing it, they're working him over.
He said it on his radio program, and he works at NBC News. Laura Ingraham has responded. She said, crude comments made about me by Ed Schultz on his radio program. First, I was surprised to learn Schultz actually hosted a radio show. Is it only available online? Second, I have to get back to recording the audio edition of my new book, Of Thee I Zing, and now I'm tempted to insert one additional zing about men who preach civility but practice misogyny.
Yeah.
Now, here's the point. I'm tying these two things together. If Governor Palin gets in, she will again be on the front lines of vicious attacks. There's this double standard for conservative women, and I cannot, for the life of me, figure out why. Tell me why.
I think it's because, Sean, somebody like Laura Ingraham, but to an even greater extent, Governor Palin, because she's been in the public sector. She has run for office repeatedly. She could be a candidate for president. When you have a conservative woman in the mix, she represents an existential threat to liberalism. Why? Because she actually lives her life according to conservative values, whether it's pro-life, pro-gun. This is a woman who embodies conservative principles, and therefore the left needs to take her out in a way that they don't necessarily have to do with the
over the years yourself.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, because NBC News suspended him for a week. Was that the right thing to do?
The comments were inappropriate. They were uncalled for. They're not professional in the least bit.
Mean.
And mean. And, you know, one thing I think that a lot of people would like to see from Sarah Palin is for her to let some of the stuff, you know, brush it off and, you know, just let it bounce right off.
She's done a good job of that,
because at the end of the day, you know what Ed Schultz did? He wasn't worried about his neighbor or the people in Joplin, Missouri either. He was putting the spotlight on himself. He made that all about himself.
Look, I'm not going to have a double standard here. Unlike the left, I don't call for people to be fired. I don't call for boycotts of people's shows. I think it was so over the line and so distasteful. People can decide for themselves. But if it was a conservative who said this, Monica, what would the reaction be?
If you attacked, I don't know, Joy Behar, a liberal woman, or if you attacked the White House Special Advisor Valerie Jarrett and called her a slut on this program, you would so be fired, Sean. You would not be in this building tomorrow, okay? That is a double standard that we're facing.
This goes back to when we were in elementary school. You know, when do you name call? When do you pick on somebody? When you feel weak and you feel threatened.
Great point.
Yes, and also the left, this is how they roll because they don't have anything else. Okay, so they throw this kind of garbage, this kind of despicable language at the other side because they cannot win on the platform of ideas.
Listen, he owes her an apology.
Absolutely.
More than anybody else. That's where the apology should be.
And he owes everyone an apology for even using the word on.
Well, you know, the thing is the radio equalizer, this guy Brian Maloney found this, and there's far worse, or plenty of other things, I should say, that he said over the years that people ignore because I guess it's on the internet, this radio show. I've never heard it. All right, guys.
Nobody has. He's got tens of listeners.
All right. And coming up, well, we went off the air last night. Our cameras kept rolling. We have more of my explosive interview with a former Palin staffer. That's coming up next. And I'm thinking, you save all these emails all the years you're working for it. You think all these horrible things about it for all this period of time. You don't speak out. You are an accomplice to all of this. And now you're trying to make money off this. And I just want to know why. New data reveals just what a shocking failure the Anointed One's so-called stimulus bill really is. Now, this chart, based on the government's own data, shows the percent change in the number of jobs 22 months after the end of every recession now since World War II. And as you can see, the Anointed One's fiscal policies have produced by far the worst recovery in the past 6 decades. Now, America has 5% fewer jobs now than it did at the official end of the recession back in 2009. Quite an accomplishment, Mr. President, and a shocking new report from the Government Accountability Office may help explain these numbers. Now, believe it or not, over 3,700 businesses that receive stimulus money are tax delinquent. Tim Geithner, you're not alone. And joining me with analysis, the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Culture of Corruption, Michelle Malkin. Well, that pretty much sums it up. You know, you know, numbers like that, data is a pretty tricky thing. We don't get that, you know, fuzzy math, that creative accounting that we're used to getting, Michelle.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I always remember what Nancy Pelosi said during the Obamacare debate about how she loved numbers because numbers were so precise. Well, the unemployment number is pretty precise. And another precise number, of course, is the number that economic advisors for the Obama administration, Christina Romer and Jared Bernstein, gave when they predicted that the stimulus package was going to help hold down the unemployment rate below 8%. Hasn't happened, and it's because of spending outrages like this Cash for Tax Cheats program that the recovery has been more like a recovery. And the GAO just came out with this recent report, and I think it really bears digging into. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be thrown right back into the White House's face, because look at this. Not only do we have nearly $24 billion in taxpayer funds being redistributed to federal contractors and grantees that were delinquent to the tune of $750 million in unpaid corporate payroll and other taxes, but we also have an IRS that's falling down on its job, and stimulus oversight watchdogs themselves that were appointed by the Obama administration falling down on their jobs as well.
All right, let me go, because the Democrats are trying to spin something here, because there was a special election. Remember, you had this congressman taking beautiful pictures of himself in the mirror. And so they had a, sorry, only way to describe it. Anyway, so they had the special election. The left is trying to spin this that, no, by scaring old people about the Ryan plan. For example, I'll put up on the screen. This is the ad, Paul Ryan pushing Granny over the cliff, just to let people know. This is the ad that they ran as we get started on Metascare. Beautiful without Medicare. Now, here's the problem. Obviously, the Democrats think, oh, we found our tactic for 2012. We're going to scare old people. The Ryan plan does not impact people over 55, number one. Number two, it's going bankrupt, so nobody's going to have it, so they're saving it for future generations. The question I have for you is, how do the Republicans counter that? Because I think we're going to see 100 times worse ads than that in the future.
They certainly are, and you've been predicting it for a while, the whole elderly demagoguery, Metascare medagoguery that we're seeing now in full force, and it's only going to get worse, as you say, Sean. The way to counter it is the way that Paul Ryan has been: sober, calm, logical, and grown up. Last week I did a column that I called Adult Baby Syndrome, and I talked about this phenomenon now of Americans who do not want to grow up and who want to remain on cradle-to-grave entitlements for their entire lives. And when you tell them that something is going to be, quote-unquote, taken away, they throw tantrums. And this is the exact Democrat tactic that we're seeing now. The lies about the Republicans wanting to take away something when the facts are, as Paul Ryan has said, as you have said, as Republicans all need to make clear and say repeatedly, nobody is taking anything away. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. What responsible adults in Washington, like Paul Ryan and other entitlement reformers, are trying to do is preserve this near-bankrupt system for future generations. And it's shameful what we're seeing, not only out of Nancy Pelosi, but Harry Reid today tweeting that Republicans are for the end of Medicare. No, it's Democrats who are for the end of it, because as President Obama always says, the status quo is unsustainable.
I watched Bibi really just in a pretty masterful way really just show up the president even in the Oval Office, and he won the debate. Is there something to be learned from how he handled the president in his trip to America when the president tried to sandbag him the day before his arrival? There's something to be learned here on how Republicans should handle Barack Obama.
Oh, yes. I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu has taught amazing lessons, not only in oratory, but also in principle. Don't blink, don't capitulate. And also, people understand that moral clarity comes not from something being fed by committee through a teleprompter, but from clarity of thought and from a moral, principled position. And that's what Republicans can learn from going forward, not only in foreign policy debates, as Netanyahu has shown, but in our domestic policy debates as well, for sure.
All right, Michelle, always good to see you. Thanks for being with us. And don't forget tonight, you can send us your text vote. We want to know if you think that Governor Sarah Palin is going to run for president. And you can text your answer to 36288. Type or text H1 for yes, H2 for no, and H3 if you're not sure. We have the results coming up later tonight. And still ahead, wait until you see what happened when the show went off the air last night and my showdown with a former aide to Governor Palin continued. You lay out all of this garbage, and you stayed there, and you did the dirty work, and you're the one under investigation, and you're the one that might get indicted.
Check out the truth, Sean.
That's the truth. You're being investigated. And tonight on our Great American panel, he is a Fox News legal analyst. Our friend Peter Johnson Jr. is back. He is the president of the Institute of the Black World. Professor Ron Daniels also joins us again. Good to have him. And she is a former reporter, host on Fox Sports, currently hosts NBC's Poker After Dark. She's a model, TV personality, and the longest introduction of everybody, Leanne Tweeden is here.
How are you?
It's good to see you.
Hey, we have to say congratulations to you, John Rich, for our friend, for winning Celebrity
Wasn't that
Apprentice.
great?
Amazing.
Win.
Yeah, wasn't that
Amazing.
It was tremendous.
Did you watch the finale?
I did.
I thought it was great.
Admit it.
Yeah.
It was nerve-wracking, but it was great.
It was terrific.
Great job.
All right, now, what year is this, Peter?
According to me or to President Obama?
President Obama. I mean,
American time or British time?
well, whatever
Fantasy time.
Well, it's 2011, the last time I checked.
Yes, it is.
So he writes in this, signing the date book to 2008. All right, then he's toasting the Majesty, Her Majesty, and here's how it went. Let's roll that tape.
To Her Majesty, the Queen, for the vitality of the special relationship between our peoples, and, in the words of Shakespeare, to this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, to the Queen.
I was looking for Leslie Nielsen or somebody in that thing. Was that really the Queen, or was it? I don't know. I mean, what was that? That was interesting.
It was
It's British Reserve, I think.
Well, I feel bad for him. I don't think that was necessarily the president's fault. I think the music started playing, and under British rule, you can't toast, you can't do anything until the music stops.
Supposedly.
So he looks at her and she just is like. And he goes, hooray.
I do feel
I feel bad for him.
I don't feel bad for him. I mean, it's been a tough week. Benjamin Netanyahu smokes him in the White House. I mean,
he thinks it's 2008. Oh,
yeah.
And it was a nice toast. It was quoting Shakespeare. It was lovely, nice. And the Queen went like